Yo, what is up guys, welcome to HITC Football. I hope that the background noise isn't too disturbing because somebody conveniently started to drill a wall or a house or something outside. But anyways, we're going to carry on with the video, and I think that today's video is very interesting because homecomings in football sometimes can be very romantic, sometimes they deliver. Think about Drogba to Chelsea, Thierry Henry to Arsenal, Paul Pogba to Manchester United. Now, who am I kidding? That was not successful and I might have given something away for this video because today we're going to talk about failed homecomings in the Premier League. I made a list of a few players that returned to the Premier League only to just disappoint and basically fail. So sit back, relax, enjoy, grab a glass of water, stay hydrated, and without further ado, let's get right into the video. And I already gave away his name in the intro because Paul Pogba's return to Manchester United could have been a little bit more successful. After coming through the youth ranks at Manchester United, Paul Pogba only played 7 times for Manchester United senior squad. Before they had the great plan of letting him leave on a free, only to sign him for almost £100 million a few years later. Absolutely great business. But in Manchester United's defense, in 2012, Pogba wasn't really known as a great player. But when he joined Juventus, everything was completely different. He had an amazing time with Juventus, reaching the Champions League final. And in 3 out of his 4 campaigns, he scored more than 9 goals across all competitions from midfield. So in 2016, his stock was sky high. Pogba was the biggest midfield talent. He was going to be the next big thing. Possibly even win a Ballon d'Or if he was going to continue his development. So naturally, Manchester United came calling and I thought, this is something that we want. This is some business that we want to do. Wait, what? Juventus, you want £94.5 million? Sure, we'll give it to you. Why not? So of course, Pogba went on to become one of the best players in the Premier League ever, to win multiple titles with Manchester United. He even helped them to win the Champions League, and then he turned off his PlayStation because that is not how it went, let's be honest. In his defense, he had his moments. He was pretty good for the 18-19 season. Good might have been an understatement for that campaign because he had 16 goals across all competitions, and that was basically his only true elite season in the Premier League. And everybody thought, okay, finally he's going to show his qualities. But then he only scored 5 more Premier League goals in the following 3 seasons. And in all fairness, you can also say that Manchester United's squad was definitely not right for him to play in, because for years and still to this day, their midfield just didn't make sense, and it still doesn't make sense. So that definitely played a factor. But okay, come on, let's be honest. We cannot call this transfer a success, especially for the price tag. It was just not great. And it's especially horrendous if you think about the fact that he left on a free back to Juventus, where unfortunately for him, he immediately got injured and he didn't play for the team yet. Next up is Samir Nasri, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of you guys forgot about this guy. And every time I hear or tell the story about Samir Nasri, I just get a little bit sad because what could have been for this player? I really liked him back in the days. I thought that he was such a joy to watch, a great midfielder. But just like with Pogba, he showed glimpses of his talent, but he never really became the superstar that he was supposed to become. But you're probably wondering, yes, he played for Arsenal, he played for Manchester City, but then he left England, right? Yes, he did, but he also came back to the Premier League in a very unforgettable spell. We all know Nasri as a great playmaker, especially for Arsenal. When he just broke through, this guy was such a big talent, and in his last season for the club, he scored 15 goals in all competition. And I'm not gonna lie, back at that time, Arsenal had a great squad, but the club came up with a great plan, a master plan. They thought, you know what? We have some good players. Why don't we just sell them to our rivals and let's make Manchester United and Manchester City even stronger? They sold Robin van Persie to Manchester United, they sold their best left back Gaël Clichy to Manchester City, and they thought, how about we give you our best midfield talent as well? So in 2011, Nasri made the switch from Arsenal to Manchester City. He won the Premier League title in his first season with the club, only to win another one just 2 years later. And stats-wise, that campaign, the 13-14 season, became his best, scoring 11 goals in all competition. But unfortunately, things started to go south for Samir Nasri. But when Pep Guardiola joined the club, he didn't need him, so he went on loan to Sevilla, where actually he was pretty decent. People tend to forget that, but actually at Sevilla he was pretty good. The club even tried to get him back for the next season. Some other clubs in Spain and in England were also interested in him, but Nasri made the great choice to go to Turkey to get a lot of money. I guess that's the only motive for this move. But in hindsight, this was the worst decision of his entire career. Nasri only played 8 times before he got a doping ban, where he was not allowed to train or play a match for 18 months. So surely that should have been the end of Samir Nasri's career. But then West Ham United came calling. In the 18-19 season, they thought, you know what? what we could do with a player who used to be great, but hasn't played a single game in over 1.5 years. Strangely enough, he still managed to play 6 times for West Ham, but yeah, he was just not the player that he once was. The season after, he went to play for Anderlecht in Belgium, where he scored 2 goals in 8 games, but everybody could see that Samir Nasri's career was over. Next up is the player from the thumbnail, and just like with Nasri, this one just hurts me a lot. I really thought that nothing was able to stop Ronaldo. He was still going strong at the age of 37, scoring 18 Premier League goals for Manchester United in his first season back at the club. But right now Ronaldo is just a bench warmer after trying to force through a move, and he only scored once this Premier League season. The goal came this weekend against Everton. But you could say Ronaldo's return definitely wasn't bad. He scored 18 goals last season. Sure, for him personally it was pretty good to finish as the 3rd top scorer of the Premier League season, but was it really of any significance to a team that finished 6th last season? And for a guy that scored 450 goals in 438 games for Real Madrid to now just rot away on the bench at Manchester United throughout the latter stage of his career, you can definitely not say that this move was successful. And sure, he still has the entire season to turn this around, but I fear for the worst. And we're going from one striker to another, and this is just a fun one for me because we're going to talk about Mario Balotelli. Back in the 2011-2012 season, Mario Balotelli was one of the biggest attacking prospects in the entire world. That season, his last full season with the club, he scored 17 goals in 32 games, which is a pretty respectable record for a guy who was pretty young at the time. But after another half season, he joined AC Milan, where he had 2 great seasons, so when Liverpool lost Luis Suarez, they got Mario Balotelli as his replacement. And oh boy, how terrible this transfer actually turned out to be. After scoring 18 goals with AC Milan the previous season, he only managed to score once in the Premier League for Liverpool. It could be me, but to pay 20 million for only 1 Premier League goal seems a little bit outrageous to me. So the season after, they loaned him out back to AC Milan, where he also really didn't impress with only 4 goals the entire season, before finally sending him off to Nice in France, where he actually had a few decent seasons. But it's safe to say that his Premier League return with Liverpool definitely was horrendous, one of the worst I've seen. Next up, another striker, and this definitely falls in the category of Paul Pogba. And arguably one might say that this business has been even worse than the Paul Pogba transfer, because last summer Chelsea decided to bring back Romelu Lukaku for 130 million euros, only for them to just send him out back on loan to the club they actually bought him from, Inter Milan, after he only managed to score 8 Premier League goals the entire season for Chelsea. From a young age, Lukaku was one of the biggest striking prospects in the entire world, where he played for Anderlecht. He was absolutely unbelievable there, becoming the top scorer in the Belgium league at the age of just 16. But naturally Chelsea signed him up, but he wasn't ready to become their first striker. So after several loan moves, he finally got his permanent move to Everton, where he was absolutely great. Then Manchester United bought him for a big fee. I still think that his first season is underrated, with 27 goals in 51 games. His second season wasn't that great, but when he finally got his move to Inter Milan, Lukaku started firing again, scoring 64 goals in only 2 seasons, before Chelsea bought him back for 113 million euros. On average, that is around 40 million euros per Premier League goal. And after 1 season to loan him out back to the club that Chelsea actually bought him from, honestly, the worst piece of business I've arguably ever seen in my entire life. And next up, we're going to talk about Robbie Keane. In his first stint with Tottenham, he was pretty good. He became some sort of a cult hero at the club before he made the switch to Liverpool, and let's say that the Tottenham fans weren't particularly pleased with that. So when he returned to Tottenham, the fans were pretty happy, expectations were quite high, and to be fair, when he just came back to the club, he delivered somewhat. He scored 5 goals in his first 14 games, but that was pretty short-lived, because until the winter, he only managed to score 1 more goal. So Tottenham were ready to cut their losses after only half a season, sending him to Celtic, where on a personal level he did pretty well, becoming the player of the season. But still, that wasn't enough for Tottenham to keep him at the club, so they loaned him out to West Ham, another spell that wasn't really successful for him, before finally making the permanent switch to LA Galaxy the season after. And next up is something I came across that I really want to talk about, because when I did the research for this video, obviously a lot of these I already knew because they were pretty obvious, but I thought, you know, maybe I'm forgetting some interesting stories, so I wanted to do some research. But multiple times I came across articles that claimed that Gareth Bale's return to Tottenham was not successful. But can you explain to me how 16 goals in 34 games with limited game time is a failure? Because in his first stint with the club, he only managed to score more in 1 campaign. And sure, his first few years at the club, he was still a left back, but later on, this guy was an attacker, so no questions asked. There are no exceptions here. So to say that his return to Tottenham was bad, I do not agree with it. Sure, he had a slow start, he didn't play all the time, and his relationship with Jose Mourinho was wasn't that great, but he still delivered 16 goals in 34 games. It's not bad. And I mean, I'm pretty sure that if Gareth Bale would have played every game in that season, well, every game is a little bit of a stretch. With his injury record, it probably wouldn't have happened anyway. But if he would have featured a little bit more, I'm pretty sure that he would have scored over 20 goals easily. So in my opinion, this definitely isn't a question of ability, it's more managerial preference, and I mean, I can understand that. But to write Bale's return off as a failure, I'm not having it, I'm sorry. So guys, that's the video done. Some Premier League homecomings that failed and the Gareth Bale story. Who didn't fail, I want to make that very clear. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, like the video if you did, subscribe if you're new to the channel, click my videos on the end screen right now. Let me know in the comments down below who you think had the worst homecoming in the Premier League ever. And as always, I'll see you on the next video. Peace.